This is Viva Fry.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodnick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
Hey, this is Brad Wall.
This is JP Sears.
Hi, this is Frank Peretti.
This is Tammy Peterson.
This is Danielle Smith.
This is James Lindsay.
Hey, this is Brett Kissel, and you're listening to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Monday. How's everybody doing today? Well, let's start, shall we? The number of ounces of silver needed to buy an ounce of gold now at near 30-year highs. Silver is a bargain price when compared to gold. It's the perfect time to protect a portion of your savings with silver. And you can do all that at Silver Gold Bull. They got a wide variety of best value silver for every budget. Simply text or email Grahame for details. Whether you're talking to a seasoned investor or a new to precious metals, Grahame will work with you to answer all your questions and recommend the best products to meet your investing goals. And whether you're on silvergoldbull.ca.com, if you're just browsing any purchases you make, just make sure to reference the Shaun Newman Podcast. Bow Valley Credit Union is your Alberta-regulated, fully serviced financial institution, and they're proud to present the first in Canada gold collateral lending. Now, if you can lend against your physical gold and silver for favorable rates, it's like a HELOC on your gold and silver. And if you don't got any physical gold or silver, they can help you get a loan to purchase that as well. Just shoot an email to welcome@bowvalleycu.com. Say hello to Leanna. She's going to get your BVCU membership started today. Profit River. When it comes to firearms, optics, accessories here in Canada, well, look no further than Profit River. They got a brand new website they launched a couple weeks ago, and they got new features for ease for all of you. And anytime you're making a purchase, just make sure to put in the code SNP. It's going to get you entered for monthly draws and can get you some pretty cool swag, too, as well. We got a new knife with the SMP engraved on it, as well as Profit River and RecTech. And so when you're on profitriver.com, make sure you reference the SMP in all purchases. They are the major retailer of firearms, optics, and accessories, and they serve, once again, all of Canada. It is deck season, folks, and when it comes to wood, look no further than Windsor Plywood here in Lloydminster. For everything wood, these are the guys, whether we're talking mantles, decks, windows, doors, sheds, new podcast studio, new podcast table. Look to Windsor Plywood. Stop in to see Carly today. Tell them I sent you. We do have the new studio coming here in 2025. If you want to get on the legacy wall, shoot me a text. We're looking for skills, labor, materials, money, all the things, and would love for you to be a part of, well, the build on it, honestly. And would love for, all of you fine listeners to get your name engraved in what's looking to be like limestone. And I'm pretty excited for it. We're inching closer to what the legacy wall is going to look like, doing some design on it, and, well, we'll see where that goes, but it's going to be pretty cool. Substack, if you haven't subscribed to it, it's free to subscribe to, and, that gets you the week in review. It gets you, if you become a paid subscriber, it gets a little behind the scenes. It'll get you the latest view of the studio, as well as the full Cornerstone Forum from this year, and last year, I might add. Well, if you're watching or listening on X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to, hit the retweet button, share it with a friend, leave a comment, all the things. And me and Jamie spaced in today's podcast. We couldn't remember the lady's name who first introduced me to Hank and Jamie, and that's Latasha McMullen. So here's a shout out to her for giving me the initial introduction to Hank and Jim, who have now, Jim's become a mainstay of the podcast, coming on quite regularly on military roundtables. But in the middle of the podcast, we couldn't remember her name. And then it was after me and him got talking, and we dug it back up, and we're like, oh, man. Anyway, so shout out to Latasha. She is the reason that Jamie first entered the podcast, and now, years later, he continues to be on. So, with all that being said, let's get on to that tale of the tape. The first spent 24 years in the Canadian military and did 6 tours overseas. The second served 33 years in the Canadian military and served in 4 tours overseas. I'm talking about Willy MacDonald and Jim Sinclair. So buckle up, here we go. All right, gentlemen, welcome to the Shaun Newman Podcast. We're coming in fast and furious today. Joined by Jamie Sinclair, Willy MacDonald. Gentlemen, thanks for hopping in.
Thanks for having us, Shaun.
Yep, thanks for having us. Go Oilers, go.
Well, by the time this airs, it'll be like at least a game or 2 in, but go Oilers, go. Agreed. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yes.
A game or 2 in.
Yeah. Yeah, by the time this
game
is
once tonight.
Yeah, well,
this should be turned out by tomorrow morning.
No.
You do your diligence.
No, I already got one out coming out tomorrow.
Well, for one thing, you even forgot that we were coming up here. So at least it's going to get out. At least it's going to get out.
I'm here.
Thank God that I phoned you.
That is true.
Oh, my Lord. So, first of all, thank you for having us here. But thank you for putting on that forum down in Calgary. And what a great group of people there. Like, it was amazing. Like, one thing I must say, when you walk into a group of people and, like, there was, people there that from every walk of life, but pretty engaged and pretty switched on. And an attractive looking crew. Like there was some guys there that I met from.
Oh, wow.
Hey,
we're going there already, are we?
Hey, listen, we're allowed to do that now. There were some guys there that I met that I'd love to fucking go to battle with. Like they're just big, burly.
Once again, that was an interesting choice of words, Mr. Sinclair.
Big burly men, very fit, strong, and there's some attractive looking ladies running around out there. Like you attract a good crew of people that listens to your show. So, yeah, I hope that's a compliment to you. It should be a compliment to your listeners because, they were pretty engaged. I got to walk around and meet lots of people, and they kept saying, well, we can't wait to hear you talk. I said, well, no. Shaun said I got kicked off. Didn't he tell you guys? So did you actually tell him on a podcast that you kicked me off, or was that like, or you just weren't going to mention that?
I asked Jamie on a podcast, Willie. And then I talked to Jamie before we got close because I'm like, I would like to put Tamara Leach in your spot this year because everybody's talking about Alberta separation, right?
Yeah.
And how do you have somebody on from Saskatchewan? I'm like, it doesn't work, so I'm going to have to, move some things around.
Hey, I'm okay with Tamara Leach taking my spot. That was the right thing to do.
I know you are.
But you didn't tell everybody that I wasn't going to be on there.
Well, because I'd probably had a ride on my hands, so I just figured I would sneak away out the background.
Yeah.
It was behind the curtain. Yeah. Shaun disappears. What happened to Jamie? It's like, he's gone. I have to wait till 2026.
Yeah. Anyways, it was awesome. And the bush party that Henry and myself put on, that was awesome. Like, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that came to that.
You know what? That cost me $100, by the way. Cleaning.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
Cleaning.
Hey,
you got your revenge on me.
Hey, fuck you. I bought 6 cases of Bow up there. That was way more than $100.
I literally get a call.
10 or 20 on you?
I get a call from the manager. He's like, sir, we're gonna have to charge you a bit of money. And I'm like, what happened? Like somebody, like what? And then he's like, I don't know what went on in this room. And I'm like, oh.
Well,
all right.
actually, that's bullshit because a few of us went down there the next morning and we cleaned it up. Like, I don't know. And I even went to the counter and I said, hey, do I owe you anything for that? And they said, no, you're good.
Well,
so
they lied.
And it was under my name.
They lied to us.
No new bike for the kid this year.
Them bastards. The other thing is, it was a great venue.
You enjoyed the venue?
Yep, and I loved like all the other stuff, like getting to go to a Silver Gold Bowl, meeting all those guys. It was amazing. It was just like it was first class. Speaking of Silver Gold Bowl.
This is a new look on the back of that sucker.
It's got the king on it.
It's got the king on it.
Nice. We
His
happen
ugly
to have
mug.
medals that have that on there.
Yep.
Hey,
there you go. This is
not this nice. No.
Let's see if I can get that close enough there. There you go, folks. That's the back of the new 1 ounce silver coin.
Wait a minute.
Doing a terrible job of this. Anyways.
Oh, I guess you gotta buy me beer later.
Here.
Oh, fuck you. That's my beer. Well, at least you're not like Chuck and pull out like an American Army.
Joe better
one.
have beer for us when we get to Mainbury.
Just
I don't have one of those either.
Boy.
Just in
I
case.
got one for you at the campground. Speaking of the campground, one of the guys that taught me how to hunt when I was a kid, Dave Barsuik, he's up in Flin Flon, and I pray for all those firemen and everybody that's working on those fires right now. But yeah,
and they've had some terrible winds.
Everything's been terrible up there. It's horrific. But anyways, people are moving south, so hopefully Dave ends up back at the campground, and we're gonna put him up for a couple of weeks so he figure out if he has a home or not. But
Yeah.
you know what was funny? They were talking about it on the radio today, and apparently the Army isn't capable of fighting fires anymore. I don't remember that ever being an issue when we were in.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't been tracking that part of it very closely, so I don't know if they've even asked or requested help or.
Well, they have in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, but the Army is saying that they're not equipped to or able to actually fight the fire, but they can aid in transport. And one thing that I'm thinking of is back in when Kelowna was on fire, or Kamloops, or whatever that was, when the Army actually went and did that, we were still fit. And now that everybody's 75% obese, they'd be having fucking
They don't want to go do work.
Center. Yeah, and the fucking firefighting equipment they have probably won't fit them fat fucks anymore. So they can't do that. They can just drive trucks.
Yeah, I don't know. No comment.
What do you think of Russia getting hit by Ukraine? I've been waiting to add.
Brilliant.
I've been
fucking brilliant.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
It's never been done ever in the world. Like that's
Because
the modern day Trojan horse. Like that's a fucking brilliant. That's almost as good as the Israelis blowing up iPhones and pagers on the fucking enemy. Like that was a well executed plan.
You got to be the first person. You know what? To the audience, I've been sitting here waiting on pins and needles for Jay after he called me, and I'm like, oh yeah, we were doing that today, weren't we? Right? Okay, yeah, sounds great. I'm like, I've been waiting to call you to ask you about this, but I'm like, I should probably bring him on the podcast. So it's like, perfect time. And you're like, it's brilliant.
It is a brilliant attack. It was very smart and well executed.
Oh, I'm not arguing that. But you're literally poking the bear that has nuclear capabilities to go blow things up.
Well, here's the thing. So remember we talked, I don't know, about a year or so ago. I said the best way to end this war is to bankrupt Russia and get India and China to stop buying their oil, and then they won't be able to carry on with their war. Well, that's what Trump's going to start doing. He's getting China and India to stop buying their oil. And Russia economically, like the oligarchs, are going to stop him from having this war, and NATO will have to back off to pre-existing boundaries, and the Russians will back off on the east side of Ukraine, and there'll be a trade corridor set up through the Donbass where they got it all fucking blown up and destroyed anyway, and there'll be like a peace treaty that'll come from Russia being bankrupt. By India. Once India and China stop buying their oil, then Russia will have to negotiate with the West.
What do you think, Willie?
You know what? I mean, I agree with Jamie that it was a brilliant attack, because it sends a message. It sends a message that, hey, we can reach out a little bit further than we have in the past, and we pack a little bit more of a punch than what you thought we packed. And again, I mean, Jamie said the key words, oil, right? We know what the situation is in terms of oil reserves and the cost of oil and everything else. We're having that fight here in Canada, for God's sakes, about, are we going to build more pipelines? Aren't we going to build more pipelines? And, where does our autonomy come from in terms of natural resources? And you've got a pretty resource-rich environment in that part of the world, and I don't know. It's I haven't wrapped my head around it completely yet. I don't think, but I don't think Russia would push the big red button. I don't think that's a possibility, but I could be wrong. I mean,
everybody that I've had on to talk about Russia talks about they have the capability to press the big red button. And I would argue that Putin has shown restraint in not pushing the big red button. But I'm sitting across from two men who literally went across this world and fought everywhere. So I it'd be like I don't know.
Well, here's the thing about the nuclear weapons Russia has, and I brought this up in the past. is that like a nuclear weapon will lose so much yield like per year. So they haven't been building nuclear weapons since like the 80s, right? So that's 30 years ago. So every year so much yield is lost per weapon. So effectively, how effective are these nuclear weapons that they have, and how much yield will they produce if launched? Now, the United States, their weaponry is more advanced and technically is going to produce more yield than the Russians. So they're basically going, okay, we push the red button, we might get 10% of what we used to get because now we'll lose missiles in orbit because we haven't been maintaining them. And when the Americans retaliate, like, it's going to be catastrophic because they're not going to have.
So you don't think the Russians have any capabilities?
Oh, they do, but they're not going to fucking ruin their world, because the oligarchs that support Putin, they're like, fuck you. Like, we got families, we want to survive, we want to live too. They're not gonna go to the ends of the world to
this point. You would call Russia the aggressor then?
Well, yeah, they invaded the Ukraine.
But why did they invade the Ukraine?
Because Obama dangled the NATO carrot in front of the Ukraine that they could be part of NATO. That was like Russia putting nukes in Cuba, and the whole fucking world went nuts. And there was about to be a world war if those nukes ended up in Cuba.
Sure.
And they turned around and moved them back. So the Russians invaded Ukraine because of NATO overexpansion in Europe, which should never have happened.
Yeah,
like they shouldn't be in Poland. They shouldn't be in.
So wouldn't you, Paul? Okay. So right there, you said NATO keeps expanding right to their border, and if it had happened on the United States would have gone. Well, they did. It was Cuba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the same thing happens to Russia.
Yeah. Well,
why
they're the aggressor because they've actually physically attacked.
But I might argue that what choice did they have?
Who?
Russia.
Well, yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's Obama's fault for allowing that to happen. They should have been offered European status, like Russia was actually offered that same status when Putin first got into power. But they had to clean up their elections and be like a approach democracy and have fair elections throughout Russia, which didn't happen. So the NATO or the European nation was pulled back from Russia.
In your guys' like you've been deployed. Willie, how many times have you been deployed?
6.
Okay. In your 6 deployments, how many times did you run into Russians?
Just once.
And what did you think of the Russian forces back then?
They were not very good. They weren't. And I was in Kosovo. And the Russians basically came in. They got into Kosovo ahead of us. And they basically took control of the Pristina airport. And they had checkpoints. So you weren't allowed in there. And, the political situation in Kosovo was a little bit different. But, I mean, their equipment was dated.
What year are we talking?
99.
So it's been 26 years since then.
Yeah.
You have to believe they have changed since then, yes?
Well, you would think so, but look
at the Canadian military on the flip side. Like, we right in front of our eyes in the last decade, we go from you two, like, it's like, who would you like to serve with?
Yeah.
Willie and Jim? I'm like, yeah, that'd be fun. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like, I know the guys standing beside me are going to protect me and go into a burning building to pull me out. Today, I would say the Canadian Forces, and I know you guys still know guys in there, but like every year that goes by, you were mentioning the obesity rate that's in the Canadian military. Like 26 years ago, okay, so the Russians were, but over 26 years of Putin being at the helm, don't you think that they've improved immensely, not to mention being in war? Chuck always talks about being battle tested. You two are definitely battle tested, right? So you walk in your first tour, I assume it changes the next tour to the next tour. By the time you're in the 6th tour, man, I assume you've seen almost everything. Probably not, but there's probably always a few different surprises.
Our battle testing is, though, that a lot of us came back. What the Russians are facing in Ukraine, like their casualties are 1,000 a week. Like we lost 158 guys in 10 or 12
but
years.
Jim, the recent stat that Rebecca Koffler just told me last week was for every one Russian they lose, they're killing 14 Ukrainians.
Yeah.
Like the casualties are high on Ukraine side. It doesn't sound like it on the Russian
you
side.
got to be careful where you're getting your stats from. Like you got to look at both sides. Of the
I agree,
stat machine,
but
so.
Rebecca Koffler was a Soviet Union-born lady who came over, immigrated to the United States, calls the United States home, went to work in the U.S. intelligence agency as a Russian analyst, basically analyzing and bringing back the data. I don't know if I can't trust that. She goes on, she's outspoken about it.
Yep. No, I'm sure that she's not off the mark. But is she including civilian casualties as well as military casualties? Like how is that stat breaking down? Like and so are they comparing just combat deaths, or are they comparing combat and civilian deaths? So you can make stats out of anything, but if you're not looking at the right stats, you're not going to have the right numbers to make a decision. So I would just be careful on the stats that she's getting and where she's getting them from. The other thing is the big push on making Ukraine actually stop fighting through what Trump is doing. So they want to have the larger numbers for the Ukrainians dying to put more pressure on, getting the world to go against the Ukraine to stop the war as well. So there's lots of stuff happening underneath the table and behind curtains that we don't know, and we've seen that in Croatia and Bosnia, where the information is being pushed upon us to say certain things to get other people to change their minds. So what really is happening? I don't know.
Can you talk about that?
Oh yeah.
What was being pushed on you guys back then? To are you talking about to say back to the Canadian population?
It'd be in the media, like I was in an example where the Croatian army shelled one of their own villages to blame it on the Serbs because they had media people in that village as well as United Nations people. So when a round hits the ground, it makes a splash. And if you shoot a back bearing on that splash, you'll know this by the size of the round roughly what that was. Was that artillery or mortars? If it was mortars, okay, it's like 3 clicks that way. And it could be 800 meters, but you just go back that same distance and you find the mortar position. Like there's a crew of fucking Croats there. Well, they're the ones shooting into their own village to kill their own people so that they can make it look like the Serbs are doing it, because they want the world to be enraged against Serbia, not Croatia. Germany was behind refunding the Croatian army. In fact, when they reprinted their money, their old kuna looked just like a Deutschmark. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So but they want the world to blame Serbia, right? So all these kind of lies that are pushed upon our media, it's human lives at the end of it that are paying for it. But
well, you two would have a very how do you even bring that information back to the Canadian public and even make them understand? Half of us don't, I understand where Croatia and Serbia, I understand on a map where it is, but never been there, don't know the intricacies as you're talking about, and then all the different players at play in that game trying to get each side to resemble something to the world so that emotion is garnered to their side so that people will fund it and keep it going, essentially. Correct?
Yeah, there's if you think about the Israeli war that's happening right now, and you look at just, I think it was this week, they were talking about an aid station. The U.S. was, bringing in aid into Gaza, and they said, the Israelis opened fire on this aid station, and then all of a sudden there's drone footage that the Israelis provided of, Hamas gunmen are actually the ones that opened fire and started killing people. And so it's really hard to sift through all of that and figure out what's true and what's fact and what's fiction. And the thing is, there are people whose full-time job is propaganda. And it's been that way since World War II. Probably World War I, if we're being honest with ourselves, and it wasn't as sophisticated as it is today. But I don't know. I find it hard to watch almost any news outlet and go, oh, well, that's true. And the unfortunate reality is we have a very large slice of our society that does do that. And they read a soundbite on a news network and they go, well, that has to be true because they believe in journalistic integrity, etc. And maybe those journalists aren't purposely spreading information that could be questionable, but they're doing it, and it's happening, and people are believing it, and you know, Jim brought up about you know, the war in the Balkans and even Kosovo in '99. You know, there was all sorts of weird things going on there. You know, who's the bad guy? Because the Russians were backing the Serbs, and NATO was from my perspective, there to sort of keep the two religious factions apart. But, you know, we dealt with the Serbs and I think what Jamie was saying, and I believe it to be true, and it was no different in Afghanistan. The Serb people are good people. The Muslim people are good people. The Afghan people are good people. It's their governments and the institutions that are forming policy and shaping the geopolitical landscape that are doing a disservice to everybody. And we've seen it in this country. We've seen it happen. I mean, I talk to people coast to coast to coast, and we talk about the recent election. We talk about the state of the economy. We talk about all sorts of things, and you know, the overarching sort of theme is we haven't done very well in the last decade, you know, given what we have to offer as a society, and you know, I'm not slamming one party over another, but I certainly wouldn't, you know, race to the polls to vote for the Liberals, regardless of who the leader is, because their policies are garbage. But you talk to someone from Ontario from time to time, and like I had people calling me last week saying, oh, is this Alberta separation thing, does that have any steam? Like, is there any merit to that? And I'm like, yeah, there is. But that's not what they're hearing in the media in Ontario. What they're hearing is it's a bunch of fringe minority people that are making a bunch of noise, and there's no steam behind this, and it's never going to happen. And I mean, listen, I was one of those guys. Jamie can tell you. I said, "Oh, it's never going to happen, man."
I'd phone him up. I'd be like, "Willie, what's the thoughts?" But can I just
jump
in here real quick, because Willie's talking about that incident in Israel where the Israelis attacked I believe it was some kind of a UN.
It was an aid station.
Aid station there, but there was like a Hamas whatever that was there, and a good friend of mine, Captain Wolf Von Kruger, he got killed in one of those same incidents where the Hamas had their command center underneath the UN aid station, and they blew the whole thing up because they had to kill these Hamas leaders that were underneath there. And then in the same clip, they didn't mention who did it, but then they said, and 12 Palestinians were gunned down at a food aid station. Well, they want the people to link the 12 Hamas that were gunned down to the Israeli airstrike and think that the Israelis also killed these 12 people or whatever it was, 40 people trying to get food. But that was really the Hamas fighters killing the starving Palestinians that just wanted to get the food. But Hamas takes the lion's share for their fighters, not for the starving people on the streets. So they'll kill their own people just to get the food for their fighters. And that was the same shit that was going on in Mogadishu back in Somalia. So this shit, and if you guys ever want to like read the Art of War, like the Sun Tzu by China.
Sun Tzu, yeah.
Yeah,
Sun
like
Tzu.
so this disinformation stuff has been going on for 3,000 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you were like the last couple hundred years, I'm like, it's a short. The Art of War is shorter than I thought it was gonna be, and it thousands of years later, you're like, holy crap!
It's still relevant.
It's
to this
still
day.
so relevant. Like,
yeah, it is. I mean, in terms of being disciplined, enough to follow all the tenets that are outlined in that script. I think what I was getting at was, propaganda. It's much easier to sell now than it was.
100%. Yes.
And so it's become more, robust.
With AI, right? Like now it's you can I've watched some dub videos because I'm a firm believer in give me the raw footage. And then I can, or even an interview Trump does, the one that, I made sure to find and then put it out on X or retweet it on X was the full Zelensky, him and the old, because everybody clipped like the last 8 minutes. I'm like, why the last 8 minutes? Why not the full thing? Why wouldn't you just put the full thing? It's like 40 some minutes. Maybe I'm a little off, 52 minutes. And you can see how it progresses to the last 8 minutes because that's important, I think, seeing the entire thing. And the with AI and stuff and the ability to dub voices, I'm like, man alive, that is tricky. It's I'm constantly watching videos now to see if there's any movement from the actual speaker with the words that are playing because it's getting like we're in the early stages of AI. Think of this in 10 years.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we got to get our shit together. Like, AI is gonna be if you're not the leader in AI, like if it's America or the West has to be the leader in AI. Like China has already got a jump start on all that shit. We've got to turn that ball around. We've got to be on top of it and not underneath it because if we're not the leaders and controlling AI, then everything that we believe in and that our values are will be gone because they are gonna steamroll us, and we are not gonna have a leg to stand on if we can't control AI globally. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. We're going through this whole, we talk about all these different books that were written, 40, 50, 60 years ago, and Fahrenheit 451, let's burn all the books, and we're not quite there yet, but damn, we're close. We're close to, we've had leaders not just at the federal level but at the provincial and municipal level that are trying to erase history and rewrite it and change the narrative, and it's the biggest mistake you can make. Like, are we perfect as a society? Absolutely not. Have we made mistakes? Yes. And we need that history to be able to reflect back on it and go, what did we do wrong and how do we get better? And the problem is they're trying to solve all these issues right now, and and it's out of context, and it's based on factless history that somebody has written somewhere, and I think it's absolutely insanity. It's absolute insanity that's happening to us. And
good point about race and history. Look what they did when they invited that Ukrainian soldier into our parliament. And then the next time they had a meeting in Parliament, they're like, well, let's erase that part out of Canadian history. Well, how can that even be thought of to be brought up in a place, especially the Parliament, where it's supposed to be public knowledge of what you do in there? You can't start erasing shit because you did something wrong. It's just mind-boggling that we're at that point in history right now. It's insane.
Yeah, you got to learn from that stuff, and it's things are seemingly complex. I was looking over here at one of the signs you have here, and it says, like, life is simple, don't overthink it. And man, I don't think we're living that anymore. I think it's super complex, and I got a 10-year-old son at home that asks me all sorts of questions, and I'm challenging in circumstances some of the things he's been told, and to a certain extent some of the things he's been taught. And I'm like, no, it never went down like that. And it's not based on just pure ignorance. It's based on the fact that people read something and believe what they're reading. And that used to be true. It used to be true that we could watch the 10 o'clock news or the 6 o'clock news, and we could trust that they were literally just giving us the facts and allowing us to develop our own opinion on that. But you can't now. There is a spin to everything that's reported, and it's, I'll go back to Pierre Poilievre before, I think it was the last election, and not this past one, but the previous one. And there was the CTV News gathered a whole bunch of sound bites, and somebody asked a question about the dental, the free dental program that the federal government's trying to launch. And then they cut right to Poilievre saying, no, we don't support that. And then it came out like 2 days later that they had cut they had cut a whole bunch of clips
that they
together.
doctored it.
Doctored it.
And what was the consequence of that? The consequence was, they made an apology on the 11 o'clock news that took them like 15 seconds. It's a soundbite that nobody watches anyway, but somehow they're absolved of any culpability for
let's give them
doing
another
that.
150 million too.
Hasn't the government learned, like, I'm talking the highest, like the Trudeau of the world and that group of leaders, that if you get caught in something, you just deny, and if you keep getting caught, it's just an ethics violation. There's no teeth to it. And at some point, as a population, speaking of Canada, at some point, the rule of law has to come back. You have to hold anyone in power accountable. Otherwise, you get what's going on here. And we're talking about them trying to erase parts of like their stupidity. Well, why are they doing that? Because they don't want to have that on record that they were that dumb to have invited a guy who fought for the wrong side and get a standing O in the parliament, right? Like that's what happened. And now they're like, oh, we messed up on that one. We'll just get rid of the guy who said the things, and then we'll just, we'll slide it over here. Nobody will ever know what happened. In 10 years, it'll all be gone. Won't be a big deal. You watch all the ethics violations. At this point, if you're in government, you get caught doing anything. It's like, does anything happen? Really? We were talking. Remember the was it the consulate? The Chinese guy out in Ontario was going to run and made the joke, because when you watch the interview or the press conference, it's kind of like he's joking. I'll just tell they'll arrest him and they'll send him back to China.
Well, no, but here's the thing. He might have made a joke, but it was an actual thing from the Chinese government that if you bring this guy to the Chinese consulate, we'll send him back to China, and we'll pay. There's a bounty that they will pay.
Yes.
So at what time do we allow Chinese consulates in this country to pay out a bounty on somebody they want to detain? I would fucking shut down every Chinese consulate in the country right fucking then and there, because you don't know what they're fucking doing, and that's totally illegal. You can't kidnap people and pay. This isn't Slapshot. Okay, this isn't Slapshot where you can put a bounty on a guy's head. Like, you can't do that. And our government, and that's why we're the Cuba of the North. That's why the American government's so pissed at us. We're so friendly with China. They got these tariffs put upon us, and they could have been dropped, just like the Mexican president was asked to put 10,000 people on the border and we'll drop the tariffs. Trudeau said he was going to do that. He didn't do that. They still got the tariffs so that we could have an enemy, so the Liberals could say, oh, bad Trump, so we would re-elect the fucking Liberals. But they still haven't put anybody on the border. So we still have those tariffs. Those tariffs would go away like automatically if we would just put our border guards down there, or the military or somebody. But they won't do it because they need to have that enemy so they can pass these budgets and they can get $300 billion or whatever the fuck they're trying to get. So it looks like we have somebody we have to fight. They don't want us to fight. They just want us to clean up our shit and stop fucking being friendly to China and India and be a sovereign nation. And that's all they want.
You got any hope that Carney does anything different than what the Liberals have been doing?
Well, I mean, everybody deserves a chance.
Fuck that guy.
And I say that with a bit of a forked tongue. I don't. Honest to God, I don't. It's gonna be platitudes. I mean, listen, they passed a budget without parliamentary approval and said, we're not going to make it public because we don't want to tell you how much money we're going to spend and where it's going to go. which should be illegal.
Right.
And we go back to the rule of law that you spoke about earlier, and it's like, okay, well, all the leaders of the law enforcement agencies are political appointees, And I got nothing against law enforcement. I think for the most part they want to do the right thing, but there's always going to be those folks, and it's no different than the military, that they care more about their career than they do about the institution. And that's one of the lessons that I learned, as a young soldier was, hey, there's going to be people that are career chasers, they're rank chasers, they're paycheck chasers, and it happens in private industry. It happens all across, the entire spectrum of business. But the Canadian Armed Forces and law enforcement, those should not be businesses. But we're trying to run them like they're businesses. And nothing could be worse. I mean, the first thing that gets cut when you need to make budget cuts is the military and law enforcement. And the RCMP is a great example of that. And I love that institution. They've done really awesome things for this country. But, when they start to lower their standards and they start to cut the time in training, and they start to partition resources, then you become a less effective force. And the RCMP is not a fighting force, but what you end up with is bullies. You end up with bullies that carry a gun, and the one bad person that happens to wear a uniform and carry a badge does something stupid because they're a bully and they manage to get through training, and it paints the entire organization in a really bad light. And the Canadian Forces saw that as well, time after time. And I just watched a video recently about the Parliament in the UK, where they said, yeah, we have systemic racism and we renounce it in all its forms. And I agree with that. But one of the parliamentarians in the UK said to one of the senior generals of the British Army, can you give me an example of something that's happened in terms of systemic racism? And then went further and said, are white soldiers treated differently than other colored soldiers? And the answer was, well, no, they're not. They have the same access to the same resources and the same opportunities. And the question became, okay, so where does the systemic racism exist then? And where does it come from? And I'm not saying that it doesn't, because I don't know all the facts. What I'm saying is, if you don't ask the hard questions, if you just make these statements that paint organizations in a negative light, and nobody questions it, then where do you end up, right? You end up in the situation where the Canadian Armed Forces is right now. And I would never, ever say, hey, the Army was way better when I was there than it is now. The Canadian Armed Forces has evolved. The soldiers are way smarter. I'll give them that, right? They're not as fit. They have access to better technology. They have different enablers that we didn't have when we were soldiers. But were we a more fit fighting force? I think we were. But Jamie and I also went through a period where there was a war in the Balkans. We wore the blue beret, and then we traded the blue beret in for our green beret, and we did peacemaking instead of peacekeeping, and then we went to war fighting. So we were extremely fortunate as soldiers to be able to go through all those gateways and understand what physical fitness and mindset and, having the psychological advantage in terms of being able to fight through the pain of some of the things that we had to do, whether that's climb a mountain or chase each other down in the desert.
That's a good story.
Like
I'll tell you later.
Those things are important, because at the end of the day, if you don't have that resilience and you don't have the ability to, when all the enablers are gone, there's nothing. Your radio doesn't work. You can't get an airplane. You can't get a helicopter. You can't get a bomb. You need to rely on yourself and your skills and the people around you, right?
So getting back to fitness, and I brought this up 1,000 times. Work ethic and physical fitness will beat talent any day, anywhere, anytime. Because the one thing that we have as Canadian soldiers that no other country has is the fucking winter. And when you train in the winter, it's like you can't never take a second off, or you'll fucking die of hypothermia. Like you constantly have to. So that's an edge that Canada has over everybody else, and that learning how to constantly fight weather and conditions, it leads into other things that as you get to be a more experienced soldier and you're moving on into whatever it is, that's one aid that we always had in the Canadian Army, but we don't do fucking winter shit anymore. We got to start doing it again, because the Arctic is something we got to start fucking being involved in. But Willy's totally right. Like when everything goes to shit and you don't have like all the fancy Gucci shit that needs batteries to work, at the end of the day, it's what's in between your ears and how fit you are to carry on the mission. And we got to get back to that. And listen, there's really good guys in JTF2. There's really good guys in CSOR. There's really good guys in the Patricias that are still serving and they're still there. But they're becoming fucking dinosaurs, right? Like the people coming in behind them aren't what they used to be. And that's got to change. And the standards have to be brought back up to where they used to be. And we've got to get on top of the ball again instead of underneath it. So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Willy, on that.
How do you change? But how do you? I had an old Skip Craig. He was like, I forget how many. This is in the first 50 episodes I ever did. And he was talking about, playing hockey when, before helmets and then they brought in the helmet and I was saying to him, like, how do you ever get back to that? Will we ever get back to that? And he's like, well, hockey mirrors society. Hockey today, we look at it and there's no fighting. Well, in fairness, we've become a very soft society. It doesn't mean we don't like the fights. I would argue everybody loves the fights.
Totally.
But hockey mirrors society, right? Like, and I remember thinking, man, that's a really interesting. He's like, so we're never going back, because as society progresses, you just become, we're not going back to the Coliseum. We're not going to watch people killing each other. At one point in time, that was entertainment, right? Now you fast forward and you watch a game of hockey. It's super skilled. Like, it's insane skill. But there's still the Evander Kane flying around out there, or Kachuk, Marchand, all these guys. And there's something we all can remember very fondly. There is a part of hockey that is still there. How long? I assume it's going to go on for some time, but you wonder how long before they just try and obsolete that because they can't play most of the season. But like, there is this intangible intimidation part of hockey where you go in the corner with Evander Kane or Corey Perry falling on the goalie, or on and on and on the list goes. But they're becoming obsolete. And you wonder if military is similar to that. It mirrors society.
Listen, I mean, physical fitness and mindset are free. They don't cost any money. They don't need any fancy equipment. You really don't. Like when we were overseas, we would take a tent pole and put two 20-pound jerry cans on either side and lift weights.
That's
right?
where original CrossFit came from.
Yeah.
I'm serious. We invented CrossFit.
Those things are free, and it's not
World War One.
Yeah, it's like Jamie and I are both raising our children to maybe not be the same as us, but to be better versions of what we had hoped to be. And hope is also a free thing, and it's not a good course of action, but it's about mindset. And if you're consistently beating on people and saying you're not doing the right thing and this isn't good and that's not good. I mean, you look at what the Americans are doing, and they're changing not only the culture but the mindset in the military. We are building war fighters. That's what we are doing. There's no room for green hair and face tattoos and all the rest of it. And that's important, because that's the first line of defense. And everybody knows the best defense is a great offense, right?
And their recruitment went right through the roof once they announced that. It's like, fucking right. Who doesn't like, one of the coolest fucking commercials ever that I heard when I was a kid was the sound of a bunch of paratroopers in the middle of the night jumping out of an airplane. It was on radio. And fucking your hair standing on your top of your head. You're like, sign me up, motherfucker. Like,
you mean the commercial was on radio?
The recruiting radio, the recruiting Canada put out a recruiting ad on the radio, and it was just all the commands of the jump master yelling at all the paratroopers to stand up, get ready, hook up, and then fucking not sash cords, the fucking
Static
static
lines.
lines slapping each other, and the parachutes, and everybody yelling airborne as they're jumping out the airplane. It was fucking insane. It was like, and I remember I was like 16 driving my car. I was like, holy fuck, I want to do that shit. Like it was, and it was just a radio ad. And that's the minds you got to capture, is the young minds that want to have some kind of adventure and go somewhere and do something. Once they join and they see what they're going to get into, then it gets real serious real fast. But you got to bring them in, and they want to be around aggressive, hard-nosed people. Like, we're going to be going to see Steve Ambrose tomorrow for his retirement party. Same generation as us, but like, want to talk about a fucking great career and all the shit he got to do, and just a hard-nosed kind of guy. Kind of like Dankwitz, like the last time I saw you. Fuck, it was I hung over. Whoa! Fuck, that was a good time.
Yeah.
Anyways.
How many Steve Ambrose, is that what you said?
Yeah, old
How,
Steve.
how many years did he serve?
He's got to be over 30 for sure. He's probably 35, 36, I would think.
Oh, at least 36, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
Guess what
great
else
guy.
I'm doing when I get to Wainwright? I'm phoning up Morley. I met him at your thing there. We're gonna go have a couple beers.
Shout out to Morley.
Yeah.
If you haven't read, Morley's an absolute beauty.
So hey, anybody that sends me their
I met him.
contact
I met him at
information,
you met him?
I met him at breakfast.
yeah, we had breakfast with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Morley's a great
Yeah.
dude.
So anybody who wants me to come have a beer with them, I don't care if you're in Western Canada. If I'm in your area, I'll call you up and go have a beer with you. Because, fuck it, I'm telling you, that was a great time. Met some awesome people.
Well, speaking of the Cornerstone, I want to hold on this for a second.
Hey,
Congrats
and
to
just so you
Steve.
know-
I guess is what I was trying to point out. Like on
You should get him to talk at your Cornerstone next year.
well, I'm not. We've learned if I ask on here, it doesn't
No,
mean.
fuck you. You
Yeah.
just got to be a
It doesn't
man of
mean
your
anything.
word. You just got to be a man of your word next time. Instead of fucking
about mentality,
just
Shaun.
trying to fucking sly away from it. You just got to fucking own. Just got to do it. Just be a man of your word.
Yeah. It's funny because I was listening to the radio.
I can't even rebuttal him, because
can't,
I'm like,
can't.
you're right. I'm eating crow. I waited a long time to ask him that because we'd had
That's
a guy.
why you were trying to forget we're even coming here. You didn't want to fucking face this again.
I was listening to the radio and I was listening to a podcast that Jim sent me and I went back further than you told me to go back because I wanted to get a little bit of context. But anyway, one of the things the guy on this podcast was saying was you have to want to be at the top of the pyramid, and that again goes back to the mentality and he put it in the context of business, but the context was like, hey, like if you're in business, it doesn't matter if you're playing sports, it doesn't matter if you're in working for a company. You should have that desire to be at the top and be the absolute best that you can be. And we know that not everybody's built the same and not everybody has those aspirations. And that's the old saying, strong men make,
Good times.
weak times or hard times.
Yeah,
and
No, strong men,
men-
create good times.
Right.
Good times create weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
right.
Hard times create
Right.
strong men.
So not everybody
that's
has that
sense.
mentality, but if you you can almost compare anything to sports, right? Like you think about being a kid and growing up and you played a sport, you played hockey, whatever the case may be. You wanted to be the best you could possibly be. And there comes a point in time where as you start to become an adult, you lose your imagination and maybe you stop aiming for the stars and you kind of settle somewhere in between because you're like, well, I'm never going to be as good as that guy. And, again, I'll go back to raising our sons. Like Jamie and I are on those kids all the time about you can go out there, you can do that, you can be the best, you can. And it's not about driving them into the dirt or setting unrealistic expectations. If they have the desire, and this is what he was talking about, what's between your ears, then they can make it happen. And we've kind of lost that, I think. We've kind of become this, passive sort of, it's okay if I'm just getting by, and you know, as long as there's food on the table and a roof over my head, then we're okay. And you know what, like, I've never ever thought that way, and I don't think he's ever thought that way. And I think it's an important point to bring, insofar as, you know, there's business people out there that are millionaires, billionaires, and they're not millionaires or billionaires because they decided that this was good enough. It's because they continued to achieve and continued to strive for something better. And I think it's just super, super important that we cultivate that mentality. And both our boys, they're very competitive. They're 10 years old. And so you expect them to be competitive, but we're also honest with them. By the
way, they're beauts.
Yeah. We're also honest with them. Hey, listen, you didn't do so good there. You know, you could probably do better here. And a lot of the time I say to my son, how do you feel you did? Before I give him any feedback. And say, well, you know, I was pretty slow. I wanted the team to do a lot of the work. And, you know, they both play hockey. And my son, he's only been playing hockey for 2 years. But in the winter, he is out on the community rink every single day because he has that desire. And I think that's important. And I don't know if he had different parents, if he would have the same mentality, right?
Well, so just give you a little background.
Well, wait, before background, I was going to add into that. You got to listen to it because he gave you a shout out. But when I had Larry on, it also takes mentors or coaches hitting your children at the right time, right? I got to play, I consider and I'm still playing hockey, but I got to play a lot longer because of one coach, and I was happy to get to, sit and chat with them again.
And thank you for the shout out, by the way.
Oh, shout out to Larry for it was a cool, it's like one of those surreal moments I had, and it was right after the Cornerstone Forum that I got to do it. But like, it's hard to explain. I still have great parents that pushed me, and I had some great coaches along the way, but I hit 18 and I was done with hockey. I was done being told you're too small. I remember I tried out for Kindersley, and they said, like, the coach said, if you were 4 inches taller, you'd be on the team. And I said, well, fuck me. That's great. Thanks. Thanks. And out the door I went, and I got told that over and over and over again.
Hey, you're looking at two other short guys.
I know.
Worked in the best outfits, and everybody were monsters. You just got to go prove them wrong.
Well, and so, but also you a little bit of belief can light a fire under somebody like nobody can. Like I watch it when I was interviewing athletes. I saw it almost in every one of their stories. They'd have one coach come in and just knew how to talk to them, knew how to motivate them, knew how to and get them into the importance of discipline and like working on things and development. Knew how to talk to them, knew how to just. And for Larry, he called. I don't know how it's a Friday. I was working at West Can washing trucks. And I was not going anywhere fast, and I was quite happy about that. I was just like, I'm done with this hockey thing. I've been told I'm not good enough. I'm good. I'm done. And then took one phone call on a Friday afternoon. My dad called and said, hey, remember that coach from last year? I'm like, yeah. He's like, he wants to come play in Ontario. I'm like, awesome, I'll be there. Click. Walked into my boss's office and said, I got to quit my job. Sorry, but I'm leaving to go play hockey. He's like,
tomorrow.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. It was almost like, like he knew he was going to lose me at some point, I assume. And by Monday, I'm meeting, Larry in a Husky house, which I guess is probably no more now, right? And buys me a meal. I have no idea where I am. Start playing hockey. He just put a little belief in me that you're exactly what we need.
Give you a chance.
And I haven't stopped playing hockey since. And so not only can you instill in your kids that, but if you can find the right mentor or coach who can pull that out of them, man, they can be absolute world beaters and set them off. Because I was telling Larry in that podcast, like the lessons he taught me in hockey, I've brought to podcasting. It doesn't mean it's perfect, but the work ethic's there and the reps are there and putting and showing up every day. And sometimes it's a great game. Sometimes you suck. I have the moments, and it culminates in cool things like the Cornerstone where you put it together, your idea works. And you see all these great human beings, the Morleys of the world show up, and you're like, man, this is so cool to see these human beings get to interact. Because, like, the fact you're going for a beer with them, I'm like, I played a little small part in that. That's super cool because I think very highly of both of you. The reason I'm getting a new studio, I don't know how much like, I've talked about it lots, but it's because of this guy, right? We're sitting having a beer at OJ's a year ago, roughly.
Yeah.
right? And you were annoyed. You're the only guest to date to complain about the sound quality of this room. Was Jim Sinclair. Of all people.
And the wheels on the fucking chairs.
And the wheels on the chair.
Give me a fucking hammer.
And the wheels on the chair. Yeah, but I mean, I was hoping by now we'd be in there and this could have happened out there. Yeah. But when it does, it's going to be unreal. I can't wait to like awesome. Actually show you what you've pushed on me to go do, right? Because I'd already had the idea. You just weren't letting me get away with, I don't know, right? Like,
I'm good at
don't settle, man. Don't settle. Good enough is never good enough.
Let me talk about what we do with our kids, though.
Yeah,
like it's fucking awesome. So when our kids were like, I don't know, 8, no, 7.
No, yeah, it would be 7.
7. So we would take them on a 2-day camping trip, but it's not like a camping trip. Like it's like boot camp.
It's a Jim Sinclair camping trip.
Willie, it's like a Patricia boot camp camping trip. So, anyways, we get them rucksacks, army shit, army fatigues, and like our kids have been trained like ever since they're like 5 years old. They're shooting pellet guns in my basement. I got a shooting range down there and targetry and shit like that. So we've been teaching them gun safety. Like as if they could pick up a hockey stick, they could pick up like the pellet gun I had. Anyways, so now we buy them all the same rifles. They all have the same helmets, the same garb, and we take them like on a march. So the march might be 2 miles long. What is it, 20-some pounds in a ruck?
Yeah,
and
20, 30 pounds.
It's always hot, and it's in August, and it's the worst conditions. Because guess what? Like, we're carrying the same shit. But they're just so fucking happy to be with us. They just suffer through it. So at first, it's terrible. But by the time you get there, the fucking giggling and the laughing and the jokes and so we're actually making them learn their own lessons through just following, because we're also suffering, but they're just so happy to be there with us. They're actually, we don't have to yell or scream at these guys. They're actually learning these lessons of being, never give up and keep going and like we're teaching them these lessons the hard way.
I've told you many a time I want to bring my kids to
so
right? Like I think it'd be really cool for kids to be a part of something like that.
We could set something like that up. Like this year is going to be a super cool year. So when I got the badges made, it's a watermanship training. So they're going to learn how to waterproof their equipment. They're going to learn how to float across a river on their rucksacks. They're going to learn how to keep their feet dry and how to keep their boots dry.
We're doing a fixed line too, right?
That will do fixed line. Yeah. And we're also going to be marching hills. Like, I don't know if you ever marched hills with equipment. Like that.
Do I look like I've marched hills with equipment?
So now they're going to learn how to go up a hill and how to come down a hill so they don't blow at their knees and fucking, like it's really going to be really hard on them. And every year we just notch it up a bit. We're not abusing our kids. We know exactly what they're capable of doing, and we push them that far. But we never tell them where the end is going to be. They never know. So like they'll march back into my yard, but we'll just keep going right through it, and then their minds just explode because they're like, "What the fuck? We're not stopping here." So like we're teaching them that they can go farther than.
Well, you're teaching them resilience.
Yeah, totally. Like they got to build their own shelters, they got to cook their own food, and those things are part and parcel to it, and they don't seem important, but that stuff is very important, right? Because they learn about, okay, I have to set my shelter up so that, if it rains and the prevailing wind is coming from the east, I have to face it a certain way. And, we taught them navigation. We taught them judging distance. Yeah. So they both know how to use a map and compass.
Like they can set bearings and like read a map and like shoot a bearing from my house to this point on my farm. Do
they look forward to this?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
I have to assume the first one, they're like, what was that? The second one, they're like, oh, boy. And at some point, they have to be like, this is, even if it's hard, almost the harder it gets, the funner I assume it gets, right? Because because
they've got confidence now because they know they can do it.
Yeah. Like, it builds their confidence.
They had no idea what they were getting into the first time. They're like, these crazy fuckers, where are they taking us?
We left later in the day last year. when we went out last year because it was like 33 degrees.
It was hot.
And even at like 6 p.m., it was still 33 degrees.
Yeah.
And the mosquitoes are flying around, and they're like, oh my God, what are you guys doing to us? But, you know, by the end of it, they're smiling, they're happy, they're proud of themselves. They've accomplished something that they didn't think they could do, but they've accomplished it. They got a reward. We took them to the football game, and, you know, like
and they get badges every time. So they stick their badges on their helmets and on their gear. And like
it's good.
It's important, you know, I didn't have the military aspect to work with, I guess. But, you know, like when Dustin came back from traveling, one of my older brothers, you know, in 2006, we biked Canada. And I remember the first day, you know, you got this giant country and you're looking at a map. Yeah. And we made it, I don't even know if we made it 40 kilometers. And we blew tires and, you know, I remember being almost depressed. I'm like, 40 kilometers, that's how far we're going to go? You can imagine Shaun has just turned...
We would walk that back in the day.
I've just turned 20. I'm in peak physical condition because I'm playing junior hockey. My legs are like brick. Like, it's just like, let's go. Let's see how, and, you know, and I'm sure Dust had to rein me in multiple times, right? But it's funny. When that was completed, I wrote, there was a slogan back then, and I can't remember if it was Nike or it was another, but it was impossible is nothing. And I'm like, that is 100% true. And when you do something like that seems impossible, and there was bets on how far we'd make it, and we'd never accomplish it, and this is a wild idea, and yet people do it every year. Like, people bike across this country every year. You'll see them, and once you've done it once, you're like, it's so gratifying to accomplish a goal that nobody thinks is possible, and it sets you up for success the rest of your life because you look at things and you just go, it's gonna be hard. Don't get me wrong, but it's not impossible. I can find my way through these problems, whether we're talking business, hockey, on and on and on, military, you know, you're teaching your kids that who the heck knows how to, like, why even use a map anymore, right? Well, when are you going to use that? Everybody uses their phone. And yet it wasn't that long ago, pulling open a map, understanding, you know, we used to, as kids, navigate for the parents. We had in the door like 18 maps. You pull out the right map, then you'd be navigating, going through Edmonton. Oh no, turn here. And I remember doing that. That was the fun of it. Navigating.
When I was in Africa, I didn't even have a map. When I would be walking through the bush and following the Zambezi River, I would, like, in my logbook, I would actually draw out navigational points. And so I knew how to fucking come back. Like, it was like I made my own maps through the fucking jungle or through the bush of northern fucking Zambia. Like, and that's like how our pioneers got across this country. Like the Crow's Nest Pass, like, it looks like a crow's nest. So that's the Crow's Nest Pass, right? Like, there's like these landmarks and symbols that people use to get through.
To navigate.
To navigate. And there was never a fucking somebody out there making maps for these voyageurs to get across the prairies. They actually went out there and just fucking did it. And they made their own navigational points. And
even to this day, when people ask for directions to my house, I'm like, okay, well, you got to turn left at the fire hall and then follow that road around.
I love those directions.
And it's your third right that you should see a bus stop and a bench there that's got some realtor's advertisement on it. And you know, like, but it's all landmark based. Yeah.
But then I'm like, fuck you, send me a pen.
Yeah. No, I can't do that. I can't drive and look out the window at the same time.
But no, like, but here's another thing we're doing. So Willy's a fucking like you wouldn't believe the amount of people that we pull in to because as soldiers leave the army, the biggest thing is you miss your buddies, right? And it like when I got pushed out of the army, the worst thing that ever happened is you don't have that connection with the boys anymore. So years ago, he's like, hey man, we gotta fucking do something. We're like, it's good for everybody's mental health. Let's do something. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? He goes, well, you have a campground. How about we have this? And he fucking comes up with this idea for having a roundup, a military roundup out at the beach. So we started that how long ago now?
Be 9 years.
9 years. So we do it every July long.
Well, I've had. Remember, I had guys come through here on their way to that.
Chuck's coming this year. It's going to be good. But next year is the 20th anniversary of Task Force Orion, which is going to be fucking huge. Like on the 10th anniversary, we had Hope there and the whole bit. Willie's got invites out to the fucking CDS even. So next year's going to be a real big one. But
not the current CDS, the former.
Current, Hillier. Yeah, so we're hoping to get him out there. But so this guy fucking comes up with amazing fucking ideas. And just so you know, I'm a big promoter of him, and so is many other people that are way above my rank. He's they're trying to nominate him for the Victoria Cross. So there hasn't been a VC awarded since World War II. And this guy's very humble. He'll never ever fucking tell you about it. But he's up for getting an award for Victoria Cross, and I can't campaign enough for him. And if there's anybody out there listening that cares to write a fucking letter to the government, but it should be looked at and opened up again, because there's some stupid rule that you can't award a Victoria Cross because it's past the battle date or whatever time date that they have for giving out these awards. Although every other fucking nation in the world reviews battles and then upgrades medals and such if need be. So you could be interviewing a potential Victoria Cross winner one day. Isn't that pretty fucking cool?
I don't even know what to say. I'm like, the fact it hasn't been given out since World War II. You go back, Willie, is this your third or second time on the podcast?
I think it's the third,
right?
I think third, yep.
Because
might even be fourth.
It might be.
Because we did one in Regina for Jamie's
that's
retirement.
right. It might be the
what
fourth.
What a fucking party that was.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So, isn't that a good one?
All I was going to say to the listeners, if you go far enough back, you know what? I'm going to look at it right now. If you go far enough back, you can hear a bunch of the stories from your career. I got to, here, let's just take a quick look here, folks.
Okay, well, you're fucking with your phone.
Well, it's going to take me 2 seconds.
You should play that Price is Right music or some fucking thing.
I think it was when you were on with Adam Corbett.
Yeah, it might have been that one,
That's episode 401. So if people want to go back and hear a bunch of the stories, episode 401 has, you think about this is going to be episode 8
million. 8 million.
Well, I think it's going to be 865.
Nice.
866. There's going to be a Brothers Roundtable in there, I think. So 866. So that's 400 plus episodes ago that you first came on the show, and we talked a lot about the things that would get you the Victoria Cross, right? Like, I mean, that's if people really want to go back and hear some of the stories from them. But you're right. I forgot about Regina. That was an interesting group of human beings. The night in the bar.
That was so awesome.
Well, because it's roughly the same time, right? Like, was that the?
It was the same. It was the exact same time.
Was it Edmonton, Florida? It wasn't the Stanley Cup Finals then, was it?
No, it was May.
So it would have been. It must have been the conference finals because the Oilers were that it wasn't. They hadn't made the Stanley Cup Finals yet.
That's right.
That night in the bar, I'm telling you, if I've ever thought I felt safe around hockey guys, being around military guys, I'm like, nobody is messing with us tonight, right? Like, I mean,
well, someone tried to, but you talked him out of it.
I talked him out of it because I will never forget that. Like, there's never in my life I've been able to talk somebody out of getting in a bar brawl. But when you looked around and you saw all these military guys, I'm like, just look at them. They've all put their beers down. They're ready for this. You sure you want to do this? You sure you want this? Grab that big, tall oak of a man, and he was mad, and all 4 of them left. I'm like, I think I just diverted like a full-on riot in this bar.
Bloodbath.
Yeah. But there was how many? There was like 15 of you. 15 military. Yeah, no kidding. That was
So hey, I got to talk about Juno and the Regina Rifle Regiment. We're having our birthday, and Willie's the next rifle. It's June 6th, obviously. So last June 6th, you talked to me in France, and I was crying like a little ball baby because it was fucking super emotional. I still can't get over how the boys took that guy down onto the beach and made the King's Guard and the Prime Minister's detail fuck right off so he could get on the beach and get his feet wet, which was super cool. But the thing that the kids did at that cemetery where they had the candles on top of the graves and they all had like a little thing they wrote up about each soldier and where they're born and where they died and what they died for. So what I did is I bought 200 of these coins, and they're in France as we speak, and they're going to be given to those kids that actually did that last year for the 80th anniversary. So they're going to recognize those kids. Also, the trace that the Regina Rifles took from Nan Green up to Bretteville, it's all Canadian flags, right? So I want to go back there at the 85th anniversary, and I want to put Saskatchewan flags on the markers. So when people, because I've talked to people who have been over there, and Wendy's going over there, so Eddie's going to help. But I want people to know that it's fucking Saskatchewan people that came through here and freed this fucking part of the world. And now we got our MLA, Blaine McLeod. He's got Saskatchewan flags that are going to be hand delivered by the Regina Rifles to the kids over there, and with pins so they can put them on their stuff. So Saskatchewan's actually going to be recognized, not just Canada. So it's going to be Saskatchewan recognized there this year as well.
That's cool.
Which is a huge thing. So that's fucking my update from the Regina Rifles.
What anniversary was it just?
The 80th.
The 80th. So you're going back in essentially 4 more years.
Yeah.
Yeah, podcasters should
Prepare.
just...
Hopefully I'll be retired by then and I can go with them.
Prepare France for the fucking 85th invasion of Sinclair and MacDonald. Why don't you come, Shaun?
Well, that's what I said. Maybe a podcaster should find a
Yeah,
way on that.
yeah.
It would be
Totally.
Listen, one of the things that I'm hopeful to do with the podcast is I really want to go across Canada, the United States, but further abroad. When you go back to where we, like, an hour ago when you were saying, or I can't remember if it was Willie or it was Jim talking about, like, all these people are good people. It's the governments who mess it up. Like, I would really love to go and interview people from across the planet, but in person, like to be where they're at. Because, like, it was only like a week ago I had an interview from Great Britain, then an interview from Germany, then the U.S. And you start to see this worldview of how different things are going on in different countries. And to actually, like, tag along and be a part of something like that. I think last year when you were doing, I'm like, man, I should find a way to just
what I would love?
Pay for a ticket to get over there.
Is if you did like a forum in Montreal. Because here's the thing, and the government...
The Cornerstone Forum in Montreal?
Serious. And send some dudes there that are like-minded, because there's going to be lots of questions, and you have them throughout the crowd, and you have meetings and little get-togethers, and, like, people, because we've worked with the French, like, although we didn't always get along, at the end of the day, if it's one-on-one, you're friends with them. But once there's like 10 Frenchmen, you're the outcast, because that's just how it was, right? But when it's one-on-one with people from Quebec, you're the same. You're Canadian. And if we start opening up channels to different parts of the country, that's going to unite us, and the government can't fucking always separate us. Having said that, and I'm going to go on a limb here, the more I think about Western separation, and I'm totally fucking changing the subject, if we ever got to Western separation, the only thing that I really would be excited about would be bringing our values and our morals back to what this country was based upon, and that's also bringing Christianity back to the forefront and to the top thing above government. Because right now, when government got rid of Christianity, or God above government, that's where our nation started failing. If we get God above government again, and even if you don't believe in God, you're still given rights that every God-fearing man would have, and that's the only thing that I would feel that would benefit Western Canada. Although the fucking gazillions of dollars that are under our feet, that would benefit all of our kids in the future. And we wouldn't have to fucking pay any taxes, and all the best people would want to move here. And even Donald Trump would be like, I want to move to Canada, fucking, because they got everything. But anyways, no, it'd be amazing if we could pull it together from Manitoba, all the Arctic to BC. it'd be an amazing fucking place on the earth, and it'd be fucking awesome. Anyways, yeah, no, I believe that that would be the best. Just imagine the Christians throughout the world that would fucking flock here, just to live in a free nation where you can be you can love God or you can't love God, but that'd be your decision to do. And it seems like if you believe in God, that you're like, nobody even wants to be fucking involved with you, right? And that's not right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to a point. I think the Christian values are good values for the most part. I had a friend of mine who was my language assistant, because you're not allowed to call them interpreters anymore in Afghanistan, on my last tour. And
why not?
I don't know. They call them
Language
assistants now
instead of an interpreter. Okay,
yeah,
carry on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, he gave me a call about 2 months ago, just out of the blue, and he lives in the U.S. because he worked with the American forces as well over there. And so they gave him a special visa to immigrate to the U.S.
Because Canada said, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, basically. But he
terrible.
couldn't get his family there, so I worked with him for years. He was able to get his wife and daughter to the U.S. He lives in California, poor fella. Anyway, he'd called me up and said, hey, I want to get my mom and dad, I want to get my brother and the Taliban, and they're making threats, and his brother ended up in the hospital a couple times because he was getting beat by the Taliban. Anyway, so I worked with a couple different groups to get them to Canada through that special relocation program, and then they went to the U.S. to be with their son. So we're chatting away. He called me a couple months ago. Like I said, we're chatting away, and I said, hey, how are your mom and dad doing? He goes, yeah, my dad's doing great. He goes, I had to take my mom back to Afghanistan. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, she could not deal with the freedom. She wouldn't go to the grocery store. She always wanted to have her face covered. Like, it's like Stockholm Syndrome, right? So he literally, his mom is in, the freest society on the planet. And she's like, I can't deal with this. There's too many women running around with bikinis and uncovered, and I should be going getting chaperoned.
Bikinis?
Yeah.
Give me a fucking notepad here.
So anyway, he literally got on a plane. He goes, don't worry. He calls me Sergeant Major still. He goes, don't worry, Sergeant Major. I didn't get off the plane because I knew if I got off the plane, they would arrest me, and I'd probably be, strung up from the town center.
Yeah, skinned alive.
But the point that I'm getting at is that, the American society was willing to welcome that family with open arms, even though they're Muslim, and there's nothing wrong with that. They believe in a God, and that family doesn't believe in repressing other thoughts and ideas and the rest of it. And the reason I'm saying this is because Jim brought up Christianity, and I think Christianity has good values. There's good Muslim values as well. The problem is, again, we're kind of led to believe that they're not a peaceful society, they're not a peaceful religion, and I don't think anything could be further from the truth. The problem is, people get indoctrinated to believe that Islam is not a peaceful religion and that they hate us all, and there are things, and Jamie and I have debated this several times, and he usually proves me wrong, that maybe don't line up, but there are things in the Christian Bible that could be interpreted similarly, and I think the thing is that I agree that we should have this free society, and it doesn't need to be a free for all, but you should respect people's beliefs and let them live their lives as long as they're contributing members and they're not doing anything counterproductive to tear a society down. But the unfortunate reality is we see it happen all the time. And Northern Ireland's a great example. For how many years did that war go on? First of all, it was a religious war, and then it transitioned to, the Irish against the British, and, try and figure that out. Try and figure out exactly what all the nuance was there.
Well, now it's Ireland against the Muslims.
Yeah.
Like Ireland's fucking like really taking it to task. Like they're, for an example, 2 Muslim police officers in England arrested an English man for violating Sharia law, which isn't even a law in fucking England. But because they're police officers and they're both Muslim, they're following Sharia law, although they get paid by the fucking British government to be British police officers. So, you know, and I think it's 2050 or 2060. Basically, England's a fucking lost state, and we always follow what England's doing. Canada's gonna be a lost state too. Like, yes, there's Muslims. Like I worked with 40 of them my last tour in Afghanistan, and what I loved working with them for is that we had one thing in common, and that was to kill as many Taliban as we could, and that because of that reason only, they didn't chop my fucking head off, right? Like, if I went back there now, because of how we left Afghanistan, I'm sure they'd want to kill me, because they believed that we were going to stay there and help them have a better life, but we didn't do that, right? So, what's happening in Canada is they're outpopulating us. We have 1 or 2 kids, they have 10. Like, but there's nobody saying, like, if somebody does something and there's a shooting at Toronto airport, they don't say why that shooting was. But I guarantee if it was a white Christian that did something, it'd be all over the fucking news. Right? So there's lots of things that are happening, but they won't say who did it and why, because they don't want to put anything towards that culture or people. And hey, fuck, you do, if you're a Muslim, you do something wrong, let's call it out. If you're a Christian, you do something wrong, let's call it out. But it's got to be fair for both sides. And the only racism is against the white guy right now. And that's not right.
Well, I don't know.
And going back to what you were saying in I don't know what podcast it was, but you said Winston Churchill, the truth is so fucking precious, we have to have a bunch of lies around it to guard it. And that's the truth. Like, truth is very precious, and sometimes a secret has to be kept with a lot of lies. Well, they're keeping secrets with lots of lies that we should know as Canadian people. And it's terrible where we're getting to.
Well, you go back to your comment on the governments and how they're, you know, you got all these great people. And then you just got all these like foreign actors seeding dissent and splitting countries.
Absolutely.
And you go like, do we ever
The
get
art of war.
Do we
It's
ever
the art of war.
do we ever get to a world where it's kumbaya and everybody just lives peacefully?
I don't know. I think that's pipe
After I
dream.
get back, I'll tell you about it.
I think that's pipe dream. I don't think that that's a reality. I think that that's something that, you know, I think that's something that we have this utopian vision of what the world is and what it can be. I don't think we'll ever get there, just because there's too many opposing views. I think we can get close. But I don't think we can get there. And you know, the reason is there's always going to be the next dictator, the next leader, the next whatever. And I mean, let's just look at the narrative that gets spun in our own country in order to get votes. It's got nothing to do with what's good for the country and everything to do with how do I stay in power? How do I get that parliamentary pension or whatever it is, right? And the truth of the matter is there's bad people everywhere, right? But the problem is we're not allowed to call them out anymore.
Well, and if we do call them out, nothing happens.
That's right.
Well, hey, going back to that bar fight that almost happened.
The bar fight that didn't happen.
But this is like,
You realize that's the second time I've been in a bar fight with you and I've had to talk the opposing force off a ledge? That's the second time.
but it was easy when there's people around there, when they look around and go, yeah,
It's easy when you got a calming voice. I guess
he's
that's
right.
what I've become, yes.
He's right. I don't want to fuck with these guys because I didn't see what is all around.
It was
here.
all about perspective.
So
it was just about
so
perspective,
that's-
just getting him
and
to
like
open
you
his
said,
eyes.
kumbaya is a fucking pipe dream. He's totally right. If you don't have a strong deterrence as a man or as a country or as a group of countries that work together, you're going to get fucking bullied. Like, that's reality. We're animals. Animals do it all the fucking time. So stop thinking that we're so fucking advanced as humans that we're not going to want to take advantage of somebody, because we are. That's just reality. So in that bar fight, or that almost bar fight,
It wasn't a bar fight.
somebody was fucking with me. I told him to go fuck himself and get the fuck out of my drinking spot. And he went and got all his fucking little buddies to fucking come and try and beat me up. And then you realize what was going to go on. And so did all the army dudes, which filtered into the crowd and were ready to pounce. And you said, look at that guy, look at that guy, look at that guy. You really want to fuck with this guy? Because that's what you got to deal with. That's why nations come together and they fight with each other. But they're strong nations. They have a fucking army. They're able to do something. Now, can you imagine if I was like a computer geek and had all my computer geek buddies there? They would have fucking rolled us, right?
Well, you would have never got in his way in the first place, Jamie.
No, but
it is funny because it was all about perspective.
No,
he was staring right at you, and emotion was clouding his judgment.
I stood up for what I believed in, and I told him to fuck off. People got to start doing that again. You got to stand your ground, and if you're talking to... I was paying a speeding ticket the other day. There's an old man in there trying to talk to this 19-year-old kid that he didn't get a letter from the government to show up in court so he could protest his ticket.
Yep.
And the kid couldn't understand it. And he's like, can I talk to the manager? He was just being polite. Can I talk to the manager? Can I talk to the manager? The kid wouldn't listen to him. And finally I stepped in. I'm like, there's 10 people waiting to pay their tickets. I'm like, hey, this guy's a taxpayer. He wants to talk to your manager. Go get your manager right now. And because he was old and elderly, that young kid was thinking he was the fucking man, and no, fuck you, just pay your fucking ticket. Well, he went and got his fucking manager. The manager came back. Okay, take this to the King's Court, which is down the street, and you can go see a judge. That's all. But the kid wouldn't fucking listen to the old guy. So sometimes you just got to stand up and say, hey, this is fucking wrong, like the truckers did when they went to Ottawa. And we got to start doing that shit more.
Channeling our inner Jamie.
Yep.
I want to ask you about one thing before I let you boys out of here.
We're not leaving.
We're here all night.
I got my beer. We're not going anywhere.
You said
get out the door.
Knock the wheels off here. I can sleep in this chair.
Unless you think you're getting through that hole in the roof.
You sent me a video about China having a base on the moon. Do you believe that?
Well, that I don't know. No. What it was is they're extracting through autonomous fucking whatever. They're extracting that helium-3, which is what they need to super cool their AI computers. So it's whatever they're sending up there. It's like just like the rovers, like the Mars rovers. That's what they're talking about that they have up there.
What do you think, Willie? I'm just curious. You think, like, you got Space Force in the U.S. Well, they wouldn't do that unless there was some thought there that whether that's just satellites and autonomous vehicles or do you think they've progressed? The military has progressed far enough to be roaming around outside the orbit of the Earth.
China?
Listen, I can tell you the Canadian Army hasn't. The Canadian military hasn't.
Fuck, they can't get out of their
I
base.
worked in force development for a year and a half, and there was nothing but a lack of imagination there and bureaucracy to try and get a new sniper rifle. Like, it was crazy. Anyway, the Americans are cagey, and they have a massive amount of money behind their initiatives, and I think that there are enough experienced, imaginative people that it could be a possibility. I mean, I can't say for sure.
We're talking about China. The Chinese.
No, I know that, but the Chinese, all the Chinese are doing is, like, again, the Chinese. We'll go back to the sports analogy. They want to be at the top of the pyramid. The U.S. is a superpower. They're like, hey, we got to catch these guys, and everything that we do has to be to counter their technology,
Yep.
or reach above their technology. And I don't begrudge them for that. I mean, like, it's no different than, again, being in business. You know, Jamie wants his campground to be better than the next guy's campground. And how do you do that? Well, you put in tornado shelters, and you put in, you know, showers. And
Actually, you know why I think my campground, and I've been told this by many people, is the best? It's not because of all the amenities and close to everything that's in the town. It's the people of the campground that actually makes it the best, which is what I was getting to about the Cornerstone Forum. The people that were there were fucking rock stars. Like, I'm talking, like, I everywhere I went and whoever I talked to, like, it was enlightening, and it was.
Well, I was saying
great.
to a guy at supper, he was like, or lunch, sorry, what is this about? And I just said this, and I just point, like, because you could just see this. I didn't fully comprehend it that day, but the next day I started to comprehend it at breakfast, because I just got to sit there and not worry about who's on stage and what's next and what is this going right, and I got to just see this buzz in the breakfast room in the hotel. The next day, the restaurant was like, I can't imagine trying to serve that group, because they weren't being rude. Everybody was talking, and they were just so involved in conversations. It was just, you could go sit, and I was watching people. They were going and sitting over there, and then they'd look over, and there's Jamie. Oh, they'll go sit over and say hi to Jamie, and then they bounce over there, and I'm like, this is wild.
Here's the thing.
So the people is a huge part of
totally.
anything.
Here's the thing about the conference, though. Like, in that arena, I would walk around and kind of eavesdrop a bit, and then I'd introduce myself, and I'd be like, so do you know this person? They're like, no, we just met today. And the conversations they were having and exchanging phone numbers and email addresses and shit, like, it's like you're linking fucking people that are, yes, they're like-minded, but they're in when they're back in their isolated area where they can't communicate with people that are like-minded, you're now giving them an outlet where they can have somebody they can talk to, which has the same thought values and values as they do. So you're linking people. Like, you connected to such a huge audience there. Next year, I don't know what your plans are, but it's going to be fucking massive.
Well, I just got back from Calgary. So I just got back. I told myself, you know, what was the line? Good isn't good enough. Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah, good enough isn't good enough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I told myself the night of the Cornerstone Forum, I'm going to give myself 2 weeks before I think about the next one. All right. And if Drew Weatherhead's listening, shout out to Drew Weatherhead, because Drew Weatherhead had given me a speech on here sitting in your chair, Willie.
Get him there next year.
He gave me a speech sitting right there, because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do it again. I was so stressed out, and I was having one of those mopey moments where I was just like, I don't know. And he gave me this pep talk, and he texted me the day after. He said, so you doing it again? I'm like, it took 12 hours. And my brain wouldn't shut up. And I'm like, can you just enjoy a moment of quiet? Like, can we just... And it was Monday morning, so 2 days or a day and a half after, I'd already emailed the Winsport. And so we were just in Calgary. We went looking at a couple different venues, just because of date, more than anything, just because of when I want to have it. And the problem with the middle of April is it seems like that is an impossible date to get at this current moment. So right now, yeah, we're penciled in for March 27th, 28th. I say penciled in, and I don't want people to mark that on their calendar just yet, because we're finalizing things. We're looking at some numbers, and I want to make sure that if we go March 27th, 28th, there isn't a better way to do it a little later in April, because it would be nice to have 2 or 3 weeks after that, when the days are getting longer, the sun's starting to come out, the snow's melted. It's just a little bit nicer. But I heard it loud and clear from all the farmers listening. They were pissed that it was in May. I heard from other groups of people that were pissed because it was on Mother's Day weekend. And I'm not a fool. I didn't want to have it on Mother's Day. That was the only day that we could find. And it's like, do you have it or...
What's wrong with April 8th or April 9th? Like Vimy Day.
They're all freaking booked.
Call in a bomb threat.
Jesus. You're going to have to dub that out.
No, fucking call in a bomb threat.
I will not be doing that to anyone listening. There will be none of that. It's just, we're working on it. It'll be back in Calgary. That's what at this current moment, Calgary was such a success. I have to give a shout out to Silver Gold Bull. I give you
Yeah.
anyone who comes in the studio,
Great people.
they get the silver 1 ounce coin, and then Bow Valley Credit Union. Both those companies twisted my arm, and I tell this.
Amazing people.
Dad always talks about the Chinese farmer proverb. Maybe, right? Like his horses run away. And all the townspeople come, oh, isn't that so bad? And he goes, maybe. And then they come back, and then the horses come back the next day, and they bring a bunch of wild horses, and they go, oh, isn't that so great? He goes, maybe. Son's training him, gets bucked off, breaks his arm. Oh, isn't that so bad? And he goes, maybe. Chinese army comes to take able-bodied men, and his sons can't go. And they all come, isn't that great? And he goes, maybe. And so for me, if you go back to 2023, I had a show with Tom Luongo and Alex Craner in June in Lloydminster. And by all accounts, it is my worst show. Not because the stage, what went on the stage, just attendance. It was the lowest attended show I've ever had, and it really broke me. I was just like, I think I lost money, to be honest. Or if I broke
Tell
even,
us
I was
about
like,
it.
Yeah. But here's the funny thing. You know who was in that audience? Silver Gold Bull, Bow Valley Credit Union. The guy who gave a flight home to Armstrong, Martin Armstrong, he was in that audience. And who makes all this possible this year? Bow Valley Credit Union, Silver Gold Bull, the guy who flew Martin Armstrong home. Those are the three. And so, like, what I thought was the low point was actually a catapult into something that I didn't know if would be possible, especially this year. I thought we were jumping the gun a bit, and yet you came to Calgary. It was a hit. It was a success, maybe even higher than a success. It's going to go back to Calgary. If I have anything to say about it, I don't see why I would pull it from there next year. And so, yes, it is coming back.
Well, when we started our roundups, like, we made some tragic mistakes. We bought a bunch of beer. We put it in a fridge. You got 60 Army guys there. They sometimes forget they took a flat of beer. Anyways, like, for a couple of years there, like, we were funding this whole fucking thing. Like, the band's $2,000, But the thing was, it was all worth it because the group of guys that were there, all the stuff that was being talked about, and at the end of the day, it's fucking good for our souls as well, right? But sometimes you lose, but eventually you're gonna.
Well, as
win.
long as you're learning, right, along the way, and picking up lessons. And I think anytime you put on an event and bring people together, or do a podcast, right? There's podcasts. You learn things, and you go, oh yeah, don't do that, or do that. I don't know. Sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle. I'm always searching for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a time where you do or don't do something, and you say to yourself, don't ever do that or continue to do that, and it doesn't work out. It's that's just life, man. That's how it goes, right? So yeah, I mean, you do learn along the way. Like, we learned, don't fill the fridge with beer. Make people bring their own beer. Because we were paying bartenders. We were leaning forward and buying 2,000 beers. And the beers were walking out of the fridge at 2:00 in the morning when people were hammered. And they were like, I don't know, I didn't take any beer. And I'm like, the empties are right in front of your trailer. You owe us like $50, okay? It's just $50. No, it wasn't me. And, so we learned that lesson. We said, okay, no more bartenders, no more beer. You guys bring your own beer. And then everybody's, we bring beer. And then Gene brought beer, and everybody drank his fucking beer.
Which you donated.
So
no, it's just learning lessons as you go along the way, and I tell you what, you're on to something, and God hates a quitter. Okay, so you're not allowed to quit at this point, because a lot of people, you've really helped a lot of people there too. Like, so sorry, buddy.
Well, he's got all them fancy books on his shelf there.
Gold-plated books back there.
Gold-plated.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thanks for doing this.
Wait, we're not done. We got to tell you about our story.
Oh, fire away then.
Shit, did you want to tell us? You tell the story. You tell the story. I'll start the story, and then you finish the story. How's that sound?
That's fair.
So in July, I believe it was July 2006, there was a forward operating base in Afghanistan. It was right at the base of the belly button, which is the big mountain in Shawalikot. Anyway,
Big Taliban stronghold, apparently.
yeah, there was a forward operating base there called Gombad. And the general went to visit Gombad, and when he left, he wanted to bring certain people with him on his helicopter. So he made a bunch of people go, hey, you got to go back to Canada Airfield, but you got to go in vehicles. So, I mean, I'll give you the kind of abridged version here. One of those vehicles was a Mercedes G-Wagon, and it rolled over, I believe it was 6 stacked anti-tank mines, command detonated, and blew that Jeep to Kingdom Come.
Yep.
And so my platoon, we were going that way, and we were kind of rerouted, and we thought, okay, we'll go through this wadi, and we're not going to take any of the regular roads. So we came out into the chaos, and it was Jamie's platoon that was at the FOB at the time, and so I went over to his platoon warrant, and hey, where can we help? Where can we be of help? We don't want to get in your way. You guys are securing the scene, etc. So in the process of that, I'm like, where's Sinclair? Right? Jamie and I have known each other since we're 16 years old. We are like army buddies, like brothers. And I'm like, where's Sinclair?
We are brothers.
He goes, I don't know. He fucked off up into the hills somewhere. And I'm like, what do you mean he fucked off up into the hills? Like, is there anybody with him? Yeah, I think he took a guy with him. Didn't really seem overly concerned about it. I understand. Jamie's a pro. He knows what he's doing. But I'm like, okay, I looked at my platoon commander and I said, we got to go. We got to go fucking find him. Like, he can't be up there in the middle of freaking nowhere in Afghanistan by himself with no support, because there's no radio. He's got no radio. He can't contact anybody. So I convinced my platoon commander that our purpose is best served finding Jamie Sinclair. So we go up into the hills, and I'm like, okay, we can kind of see some sign that maybe he's gone this way, because there was some trampled grass and things like that. And so I said, okay, well we're just gonna follow this ridge, and we're gonna go find Sinclair. And I think there was about half a dozen of us at the time.
Can I just throw one thing in there?
Yeah.
By this time, the guy that was with me for a period of time, I've sent him back. So I don't know if you guys ran into him or not, because he had a bearing of the direction I was going on or not. But
no, it's your turn anyway. So we go into the hills, and our mission is to find Jamie Sinclair.
So just to back up here. So what happened was Bill, he was the CIMIC officer that took over for
Civilian Military Cooperation is what CIMIC stands for.
And they were building a school, and he took over for the guy that got chopped in the head with the axe.
Yeah, Trevor Green.
Yep. So and Trevor Green. So this is like, there's lots of shit going on there.
And it was Bill Turner.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Bill Turner. So Bill wakes up in the morning, and we're having our morning coffee and all that shit. He's going back on the G-Wagon that he was supposed to fly back on the helicopter, but the general brought his clerk and took his spot. And he's like, Sinclair, like, I had a dream last night. I'm going to die today. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, don't worry about it. Like, let's just, tell me all about it. He's like, yeah, no, I don't want to go back I want to fly back. Like, you can't, man. You got to get in that vehicle and you got to roll. And these guys you're going with are pros. Like, you'll be fine. Just watch your arcs, and I'll see you in Kandahar, and we'll go for a coffee in a couple of weeks. And so, anyways, he's going to get into his vehicle, and there's this old Afghani that comes to the wire, and he's in this super black outfit, black man hat, man jammies. He's an older dude, big gray beard. He's waving this black handkerchief at Bill. So Bill comes over, takes the handkerchief, and my gut sinks. I just have this fucking horrific feeling. So I go up to him, and I'm like, hey, man, who is that dude? He goes, oh, he's some guy. He's got a Colossi bag. I've been giving him Colossi bags as, part of the aid to this area. And I'm like, don't get in the vehicle is what I'm thinking in my head. But I can't say that to him now. Like, he's getting up and he's going. 15 minutes later, they leave the compound. 15 minutes later, boom, hear this echo through the valley. We mount up and we roll out there. And it's literally like where we dismounted, it's right on the scene. And there's like vehicle parts, body parts in the trees. And our medic, because I used to like to do the 3 to 5 shift, because if there's anything bad going to happen, it's at 3 to 5, so I'd rather be on duty. So the medic would always do duty with me, so I got to know this guy, Ro, pretty good. And Ro's like laying at like a body part in this wadi, and he's just crying because he can't do anything. And I'm like, Ro, man, like these guys are fucking dead. Like there's nothing you can do. And there's like literally a hunk of guts and meat in the trees, but somebody's Gerber that was on his belt blew through him, so all this stuff's hanging from this Gerber. And it's still in the case, and I grab it and I give it to Ro. I go, at least make sure this gets back to the CQ so Bill's mom doesn't have to pay for it, because it's just a stupid joke. Like that's the black humor we have. So now he's laughing, crying, and I got a guy with me. So we push through, because you always want to take the high ground in a situation like this. So we push up onto the high ground, and I physically come upon the site where this guy was laying. He's got flatbread there. Like there's a rifle sight carved into the stone where the vehicle exploded, and I see his footprint. So I'm like, I want to fucking find this guy, because I'm the guy that fucking convinced Bill to get in the vehicle. So I get a foot width, a stride length, and this guy comes with me, and we got little PRR radios, and they're good for 500 meters. We're already out of radio range from our commander. So we start going, come across the guy's hat. So as I'm tracking the guy I'm with, he actually looks forward, he sees the hat that's up there. So by the time we get there, I take my Ziploc bag out of my medic bag, which is for a sucking chest wound if you got one. I pull the hat to the inside so I don't contaminate it at all. And I put it back in my medic bag, and I start tracking this guy. We get to a point now where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to bring you with me anymore. I want you to go back, tell the platoon more what I'm doing. Here's my bearing and direction I'm going on. I'm going to keep going until I find this fucking guy. So eventually, I fucking find the village that this guy's in. And it's fucking just a beehive of men running around, like doing shit. Like there's probably 200 or 300 people in that little village. And I'm like, okay, this is where the guy is. Like I'm about 500 meters from the actual village. Like I know this is where he is. So now I'm coming back, and I'm like, I'm in bad guy country, right? So I got to be careful what I'm doing. I'm all by myself. And so I'm always observing, I'm looking around, and who do I see fucking running through the desert? I'm like, so I'm with my binos. I'm like, that's Willy fucking MacDonald. and he's like a K or more out. And I'm like, fuck me, this is awesome. Like, cause like you're a little nervous when you're by yourself, but he's got like all the radios. He can talk to aircraft. He can bring in firepower from the heavens. So anyways, I link up with him out in the middle of the desert, and I'm like, holy fuck, am I glad to see you. Big fucking hug. And he's like, what do you got, Sinclair? What are you doing out here, you fucking dumb bastard? I'm like, I got the guy. I know where he is. So anyways, I give him a debrief. He sends it in to hire. You know what they tell two Saskatchewan boys that knew each other since they were 16 and 18 years old? Go back and pick at the objective by yourselves.
Which means watch it all night.
So we fucking go back there, just us two, out in the middle. Like, anything could fucking happen to us. But you know what? Like, I don't know why we did it, but we did it. We stayed up all fucking night. The next morning, they did a raid on this village, captured 90 dudes. I took the hat down to the dog handler. The dog smelled down the 90 dudes we captured because we did a gunshot residue thing on them. They all tested positive. The dog found the guy that killed 4 Canadians 12 hours earlier. And it was because of fucking Willy and I. Good work, brother. So, that was our fucking little story.
I don't know what to say to that.
Pretty cool.
Oh, I mean, when you think of two 16-year-old boys linking up and being friends and then going off to the other side of the world, to see them running through the desert, you know, you paint a very good picture of like, that is.
They want to make a movie about that.
It's a good story because and it's not just a good story because, like, honest to God, from the time that those 4 soldiers got killed and blown up, there was no bullets flying, there was no craziness, but it's a good story because Jamie and I were in different platoons, we had different objectives, and when I linked up with his platoon and I'm like, where is he? And they didn't know where he was. I was like, fuck, I have to go find him. I can't leave him behind. I can't leave a brother behind. So I got to go find him. And then, I had some support with a couple guys from my platoon, but they couldn't keep up. And it was hot. It was hot as fuck.
Hot as fuck.
And I'm like, okay, I was in killer shape at the time, and I'm running through the desert, and they're like, we can't keep up with you, man. And I did the same thing. I said, okay, you guys stay here. I'll go forward and see if I can find him. But I had radios, like Jamie said. I had radios because I was a JTAC. So, I had airplanes in the sky. I had all sorts of stuff. So I felt relatively secure, but I also knew that my buddy was out there by himself, and I can't in good conscience just leave him behind. And it ended up that they're like, hey, are you guys okay to like draw sketches and line up an attack position and places where choppers can land so that we can raid this village, the following morning. And we did all that. And,
Yep.
and that's kind of stuff that you see in movies. And normally there's bullets flying and things are exploding,
But here's the thing about
but
the
it's still
bullets
really
part.
super cool, right?
Here's the things about
And I would assume the motivation of running through the desert, even though you're in killer shape, you're like, I know exactly who I'm going to. And if he's in trouble, I can
But
imagine that was tired wasn't getting you that day.
that's what I'm getting at. Like, although there's no bullets where Willie was, doesn't mean there was bullets where I was. Like, I was all by myself.
And I think you both paint a very good picture of like you don't know what you're running into and you're in enemy territory.
It goes back
Anything
to
could've been happening,
mentality
right?
and physical fitness, right? I mean, I had the physical fitness, but I also had the desire to find my friend, my brother, and be there to help him if he needed help.
Willie, it goes back to like doing what is right. It's not always. It would have been very easy for Willie to go, oh well, he'll eventually come back, or it could have been very easy for me going, oh well, we'll just stay here and secure the high ground. I felt fucking horrific that I was the guy that fucking told Bill to get in that vehicle, and that I'll see him in 2 weeks, and I hope you forgive me, Bill. But I was fucking determined to find the guy that fucking killed Bill and 3 other Canadians that day. Willie was determined to find me because we're fucking brothers. And although Willie brought up a great point, there was no bullets at the time, but I was fucking, I don't know how many kilometers away, several kilometers away. It could have been they could have had me on a fucking hunk of rock skinning me alive. Like you don't know what's going on in between fucking there and there. And thank God you came out there. I'm sure I would have got back, but the best thing about it is that we turned around, we went back there, and we observed that position, and we got the fucking guy that did it. Like that to me, and I hope that makes our souls feel better too. We actually got the fucking dude that did it. And we shut down that whole fucking village was a IED center where they built all that shit, and they went out and they fucking blew people up. Like, we shut down that whole cell. And that's usually a fucking multi-million-dollar operation that is like JTF2 or fucking SEAL team fucking whatever. And it takes them months to plan a mission like that. We fucking did it we just did it. And it didn't cost them a fucking dime. I think I was getting $200 a day when I was over there. So fucking, if I was getting paid.
That's a pretty damn good salary.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Gentlemen, thanks for doing this. I always, we joke about me forgetting and everything, but I do really look forward to when,
to maybe inviting us to the next Cornerstone, but actually letting us speak. You're looking forward to that, maybe? Maybe.
I want to give a shout out to Hank because Hank's the reason. Hank's the reason.
No, it's actually the girl. I'm having a brain fart on her name.
It is too. Oh man,
beautiful lady.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible because she's the one that says I should talk to you and Hank. That's right. That is right.
Oh, fuck. Sorry, forgive me. I owe you a beer when I see you next. But yeah, it's because of her.
Yeah, it's because of her that I get to meet you. And then, it just...
And that's when we first started talking about overseas shit and all that stuff.
And that's when you place the idea, too, of like maybe Western Canada's just got to be a different country. You think about that, that's a long time ago. That's 2021.
Yeah.
And that's when you first brought up that idea, and I'm like, it kind of makes sense, but are we there? And then, you fast forward and you're like, well, it hasn't dampened down any, that's for sure, right? Like it's interesting to me, and I guess I always enjoy when military men come on because people don't have to love your perspective, but there's very few that have it in this area, and I seem to have linked up with all of them, and I get to bring them on the podcast quite regularly. So
hey,
I feel
if you
very
want to
fortunate
see us at the Corner Store Forum, start bombarding.
He's not gonna stop on
and
this.
get fucking Willie to speak to everybody because he's fucking great guy.
Thanks, buddy.
And maybe you let me fucking talk for a minute or two about whatever. Maybe, or you can fucking kick me off again. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've given him ammo for the rest of life, haven't I?
God.
Haven't
well,
I?
you forgot about our meeting today, too. So there's that. I don't know. Should I keep going? I think I'll just hold off.
I feel like when I get you in the new studio and you get to shoot some guns out there, you're going to be like, this is pretty good.
Awesome. It's going to be awesome. I'm very proud of you, Shaun, and I thank you for giving people a voice. And
Yep. Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us, too. It's always a pleasure to sit down and have a chat with you.
And a shout out to Steve Ambrose for his 36 years of service. And
was it 36?
I think it is 30 plus. It doesn't really matter once you're over 20. He's done a lot of good things, and so is Willie. Obviously,
big commitment. Yeah.
Well, stay safe, gentlemen. I know that you won't get into a fight that you can't finish. I've seen what was close to what that was going to look like. That might have been a better story just to let it play out.
Just so you know, I wouldn't give a fuck even if I did. If I lost the fight, I'd fucking die on the spot. If I really believe in what I'm fighting for, I'll lose my life over it.
Well, you get to watch the Oilers in a Stanley Cup Finals this time
that's
around.
Gonna be awesome.
So, thanks again for hopping in and doing this, gentlemen.
Thanks, Shaun.